This morning I was going to answer the question of how to ask questions in Hmong. Ultimately, being able to understand how the question words work comes down to having a lot of context, comes down to reading, watching movies, talking to people, really paying attention. So grammar really has to have its place, as far as it's really not the ultimate way to learn. It's not the most efficient way to learn, but what it does do is having a basic understanding will kind of help speed things along. It'll help you to understand that context faster as you hear it. So I was going to go over some of the question words, how they're used more or less with some examples, and how you would answer that question with some examples, because in some cases it's quite it's not complicated, but it's very different than what you may be used to in English. So first of all, the word in the top left there is vilita. Vilita is one way to say why. If you break it down, the word vi means because of, and lita is how, as we'll go over. Or it's kind of has a broad meaning, but in a sense it's saying like for what reason, really is the answer. In fact, maybe I should just put that up there. For what reason? Okay, so the answer there, vilita ko vilita ho molino, vilita ho molino. It's kind of like saying, why does it have to be like this? The word have there means have in the sense of to be, like we have a party. It doesn't mean you're holding it in your hand, etc. But anyways, you would answer with vitia, because of, for the reason that. So vilita ho molino, vitia. I don't know the answer to that question. Sorry. Anyways, that's how you use that. The word vilita. The next one in there is similar. Olita. Olita. Also why, for what reason. So this one is kind of used differently in written text and speech. So first of all, we have the example Olita nuchika kultua. Olita nuchika kultua. Why isn't he willing for me to come over? Why isn't he willing for me to come over? So sometimes it'll be said in a shorter form, ota nuchi no. Sometimes if something just ridiculous happens, people will yell out, ota. Like, why? Why? Why is it gotta be like that? What's going on? And then mostly just in speech, you'll see the third example, ja. Ja ko zhong gao lo li. Why are you so beautiful? So when you come across those questions, there's two ways to answer. Now, vitia, we already talked about vitia for the reason that. Another way of saying a similar thought is zhou ho. So, ota nuchi no, why doesn't he eat? Zhou ho nuchi chai pla, because he's not hungry. So that's how you use olita, ota, or ja. The next one is the word for how, which is lita. So for example, go yote lita, how will you answer? You would answer go yote dia. And in this case, and in many of the other cases, you'll see you essentially put the answer in the place of the question word. So you'd say the same phrase, go yote lita. Of course, you change it to yourself, right? Because you're asking the question, they're asking the question to you, and then you change go, you to me, go yote dia. And that spot where lita goes is where you're going to have your answer, whatever you're going to answer. So you'll find that with the next few that we're going to use. So for example, the next one on the list there is the word which, twg, do. This word is used in an interesting way. It is used to form many different question words. You can use, as you'll see some of these examples here, you can use certain words, you can use noun classifiers if the context calls for it. So we'll go over some of these. So the word Thaum means when, in the sense of like when I was over at his house, the time when. But when you say Thaum, it becomes which time, or when as a question. Like Thao tu có mặt tua when you're coming over. Leng is a noun classifier for people. So if you wanted to say who, you would say leng tu, like that. Excuse me. The word no, Hnub, no is the word for day. So if you say no tu, what day, which day? You can use pretty much any noun classifier and the word tu. So like da is a classifier for tools. And if you're in a tool shed and someone's saying, oh, give me that tool, you could say da tu, what tool? There's a long list of ways you can use tu. In fact, sometimes you can use it without anything before it. Like if someone asked you, just like someone says, get the tool out of the tool shed, you could just be like, tu. Like, which one? But more complete sentence would be the classifier, noun classifier, and then the tu word. After that, we have the word dachi, which means what. Kono dachi, what are you eating? The answer is kuno, and then the answer, whatever you're eating, goes in the place of dachi. Kuno, jomo, I'm eating food. Okay, scroll down a little bit. Beicho, how many? So, for example, como beicho shong, how many years do you have? Or really it's saying how old are you? You would put the answer in this place of beicho, como beicho shong, I have 30 years, I'm 30 years old. Outside of that, como beicho leng menyuam, how many children do you have? So, como sun leng menyuam, I have no children. Haha, free. After that, zhong li jia, the question word zhong li jia. This one has multiple meanings, like what, or it can mean looks like what, because zhong li can be to look like or to be similar to. So, ko tu luang gao zhong li jia. What does your girlfriend look like, or what is your girlfriend like? Same thing as the ones above, ko tu luang gao, and then the answer goes in the place of zhong li jia. My girlfriend's really tall. I don't know why I picked that. Just some way you can answer. Okay, so the next one, these are all kind of open-ended questions, but in pretty much any language, there's also what's called a yes or no question. Yes or no question. And to ask a yes or no question, it's a bit complicated in Hmong. It's not too hard, but it is a little bit difficult. So essentially what it comes down to is the word puas, boa. Boa can be ruined or destroyed, but most of the time it's used for this question word. It's hard to put a meaning on it in itself. You can almost look at it as like a question mark, but what it comes down to is you place boa before the verb you would like to know about, that you're asking about. So an easy example is if you were to say you come, ka toa. But if you want to know, are you coming, will you come, ka boa toa, because the verb toa, the action toa, is to come, and that's what you want to know about. Now, just to give a slightly more complicated example, but for the sake of understanding the concept, you could say, you like to eat pork. Now, that sentence has two verbs, two actions. It has eat, and it has like. Now, which one do you want to know about? You don't really want to know if they're eating. You want to know if they like to eat, right? So, bo is going to go before that verb, nia, like. Nia, like. So that's how you ask the question. You put boa before the verb that you want to know about. You kind of have to think about that, but eventually it becomes natural. And the answer is interesting because in Hmong, they don't really have yes or no. They don't use, the grammar of the language is not set up that way. So you wouldn't answer by saying, oh yes, I like it, yes, or no, you wouldn't do that. You answer by saying, if it's a positive answer, like yes, I like it, you would say the verb itself. You literally just say like. Do you like to eat pork? Like. Or in this case, ko po nia no ngai boa. Nia. I like it. Or if you don't, you put the negative word chi before the verb. Chi nia. Chi nia. I don't like it. So that's the construct of how you set up a yes or no question. Now, it just occurred to me that I'm missing something really important here, because another type of question is a either or question, which is really important to know. And to do that, to do that, you use this phrase law or law ya, and that's used to give two options. Okay, so we're gonna set up an example here. Ko nia no ngai boa lo ya ngai. Okay, so what just happened there? In a either or statement, an either or question, you make a statement something along the lines of you like to eat pork, or lo ya, chicken. Ngai is chicken meat, essentially. Ngai means meat, ngai means chicken. So to ask either or question, you say a statement, essentially. You like to eat pork, ngai boa, or lo ya, or you could say lo ngai. Now when you make it like that, but you put or in the middle, you're asking a question with those two options. So to answer that, you would just say, you would pick one. So there's your answer. Or you could say it longer, like nia no boa. Okay? Sorry I missed that. It's kind of important. I tried to go through all these beforehand, but in any case, so just as a recap, to ask a question between two different options, you would say ko nia no boa, you like to eat pork, and then you use that phrase there, lo or lo ya. Ngai, option 2, and that becomes a question in itself. Okay, so that's the overview of the questions, and I wanted to go over some funny rules in Hmong. First of all, Dabtsi we went over, it means what, right? Unless it means why. Okay, so Dabtsi, why are you studying? Or sometimes they'll say Dabtsi, they'll add that classifier in there. So in this case, you would say in English it means more like why. And then we have a second example there, Leej means how, unless it means what. Ko sa Leej, what do you think? Ko hu Leej, what's your name? What are you called? I put these two examples up to illustrate a point, because they're not strange rules. They actually make sense. They're not even exceptions, really. Just as an example, the first time I heard an Australian friend ask me the question, how you going? I thought to myself, I don't know, like with a car? It didn't make sense. They were saying, how are you doing? How do you feel? Because I hadn't heard that phrase before, and it's worded differently, even though it's the same language, English. And then I thought to myself, how are you doing? What does that question mean? How are you doing? Doing what? Like building a house with a hammer? It doesn't make sense either. It's just the way you say it. You wouldn't go up to somebody and be like, what is your current emotional state? That technically is correct, but it doesn't make sense. So in the same way, Dabtsi means what? And in those examples, it means what? You study to become what? You study to become Dabtsi, like what profession or what purpose. The same one below, Leej, how. we may think in terms of what are you called, but in reality what they're asking is how are you called? How are you called? Or how do you think about this? How do you think? And it just makes sense that way. So you kind of have to rewire your brain when you think about these, and just kind of really, by means of creative thinking, meditate and kind of ponder over how these words go together, what they mean. And it'll really help you grasp not just, oh, this is the English and now this is the Hmong and I'll just say this, but really grasp the concept, and then you can use it more freely when you fully understand it in that way. Okay, so there's some of the, hopefully I covered the majority of all the question words, and some examples to help you understand the concept. And of course, if you have any questions, you can ask them in the YouTube comments below and I'll try to answer them. All right?